Sorry.
Learning through play. Children of all ages love to play, from the tiny infant who happily swats at a mobile above his head to the toddler who sings the song Head, Shoulders, Knees, and Toes. Children learn important skills by playing. Playing enhances a child's ability to reason, problem solve, memorize, concentrate, imagine, think creatively, and interact with others. You can help your child by creatively using common items found around the home. Take measuring cups, for example. They can be fun and educational. Have your child stack them by putting small cups into the larger ones. Help him learn to identify sizes, small, medium, and large. Has your toddler ever rated your kitchen pots and pans? Have him put the pans in a row from largest to smallest, or encourage him to match the pots with the correct lids. Your child will be exercising his brain power and having fun at the same time. Look around your house and find items your child can sort. A variety of building blocks or stickers could do the trick. Even better, get help with the housework by having your child sort the laundry. Matching socks has never been so much fun, or mentally stimulating. Spark your child's curiosity by playing outside and noticing your surroundings. Question your child about the different sights, colors, textures, and sounds he encounters. Expose your child to a variety of games and toys. Babies love playing peekaboo and patty cake. While other kids enjoy memory games, board games, puzzles, or playing ball. Music increases cognitive development in kids, so turn on some tunes. But don't stop there. Dance with your child to boost his brain power. Exercise has been shown to increase mental alertness, focus, and improve memory. Doing arts and crafts with your children is a great way to engage their imagination and creativity. When choosing mentally stimulating play ideas, remember these things. Consider your child's interests, expose him to a variety of activities, provide him with choices, and encourage him to make his own decisions. Let him figure things out and problem solve for himself. As a parent, you can be happy your child's play improves his brain function and cognitive development. But as far as your little one's concerned, she's just having fun.
Thank you and welcome, everyone. We are very excited to have you here today as we get into this webinar, which is our very last webinar for the year in the series of Playful Parenting, Learning Through Play. So we are really excited for this time together as we come into this last webinar. Today's webinar will be particularly interesting as we share some interesting play activities that you can use to engage your children over this holiday season. Because as the title suggests, this is learning through play, joyful parenting and joyful play at home. So we will be continuing with our webinars early next year, and we will communicate the dates in very good time. So please keep your eyes open on our social media handles for updates on our webinars beginning in the new year. It has been a great pleasure having you in these last 3 webinars. In our first webinar, when we were launching this webinar series, last week when we were looking at building systems that support learning through play, and today when we look at joyful, playful parenting at home. And as we continue the series next year, please feel free to share topics that you would like us to include and your interest to present. And if you would do that through our email addresses and do that by the 31st of December, that will be very helpful, because then we will include you in the planning for next year. So welcome to this session today. We're really looking forward to a very exciting time together. I will go through just some housekeeping things that you need to know, even in terms of how we are going to engage during this time. So Dedan, you can put up the slide that takes us through how we expect to engage during this 1.5 hours that we have together. So this is our social media toolkit. And just to let you know that we are trilingual during this whole webinar series. We have this webinar translated into Portuguese, French, and English. And if you look at the bottom of your screen, there's a little globe sign towards the right-hand side of your screen, I believe. And that is where you're going to click if you need to hear these presentations in English or in French or in Portuguese. And that also allows you to present in your language of comfort out of those 3 languages. And the translators will always be at hand to give their translation. So if you hear somebody speaking in a language that you don't understand, then just click on that button and click the language that you prefer to hear the presentation in. Throughout this series and this period that we have together this morning or afternoon, depending on where you are, these are the hashtags that you can engage with on social media. There's hashtag I stand for children, hashtag COVID-19, hashtag early childhood development, and hashtag learning through play. So you could tweet anything that you feel is worth sending out to others and use those hashtags. Now, we will ask you to rename yourself. If you have not put in your name properly as you would like to be recognized, please just move to the place where your name is with a mouse. And if you click and indicate more, it gives you the opportunity to rename yourself. And you can also indicate what organization that you're coming from. And this will help us identify each other easier. The Q&A is also going to be trilingual. So we encourage you to use the live chat on the side on your right of your screen, so that if you have any comments or questions as the presentations are being made, put them in there. And our panelists will be responding to those. And even those among us, we are free to interact with those thoughts and give responses as the questions come up. Afghan has been doing a COVID-19 response. Part of that is this webinar series that has been going on, this being the 3rd one. We also have a blog series running. So we encourage you to go to our website and have a look at the blog series. We have articles on various aspects of early childhood development. And in this last season, our articles are primarily focused on learning through play. So do go there and interact with the thoughts there, which reflect on some of the things that are being discussed on this webinar. We also have documentation of good responsive caregiving practices in 5 African countries. And this documentation is highlighted in the blog series, and even in the webinars like today, we will get to hear from good practice in various countries, from various countries in the region. At the end of the webinar, we will have a small flash on the screen, which will provide for 1 minute for us to do an evaluation survey. And your feedback is very valuable to us. So we request that you participate in that evaluation so that we can know how to serve you even better. This session is being recorded and will be available later for public consumption. So thank you very much and welcome everybody to this session. And to start us off, we are very, very privileged to have Mr. Aaron from Lego Foundation. Aaron Lee Morris is here with us, and he'll be giving us the official opening of this webinar. And I'll just share with you part of his bio. He is an early childhood program specialist at the Lego Foundation, and he oversees a range of global partnerships, all focused on utilizing play to support the learning and development of children, birth to 6 at home, in early childhood centers and within communities around the world. He is passionate about supporting people of all ages to become creative and engaged lifelong learners. And he is an alumnus of Harvard Graduate School of Education with an M.Ed in technology, innovation, and education. That sounds like just what we need in this season, technology, innovation, and education. So thank you very much, Aaron Morris. I must add that we have enjoyed very good and strong partnership with Lego Foundation, who have been our sponsors for this webinar series. This was part of their brainchild at the beginning, where we got to think around having a webinar series to promote their knowledge, to promote experiences on learning through play. And so we are very glad that we have seen this come to fruition. We are very glad for the support, financial and technical, that we have received from the Lego Foundation as this work has been going on. And we are looking forward to even more partnership going ahead as we think about the children of Africa and how we can promote their well-being, their health, and their growth through the knowledge of the importance of learning through play. So welcome very much, Aaron Morris. We are really privileged to have you here. The floor is yours. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for that really nice introduction. And seconding all of your comments, they're really, really excited about all of this webinar series in particular coming to fruition and the great partnership between Afghan and the Lego Foundation. So thank you to you and to your colleagues at Afghan for allowing me to be here today to participate and to share these opening remarks for this exciting and important discussion. I've been so inspired by the conversation across this webinar series to date, and am so grateful to Afghan and its partners for creating such a welcoming and focused space to engage in a dialogue about the whys and the hows of implementing learning through play within ECD provision, with a particular focus on supporting playful parenting. These topics are incredibly meaningful to me, both as a professional and as a brand new father myself. At the Lego Foundation, our work is focused on systemically reaching children with learning through play around the world. And as a part of those efforts, we have a specific initiative that is solely focused on supporting efforts to scale evidence-based approaches to playful parenting and to learning about what it takes to scale such efforts. As has been mentioned in the last two webinars that have been a part of this series and in the video that we just watched, there are two fundamental things that we know to be true. One, play is how children, especially young children, learn best. It is through their curious and playful exploration and engagement with the world from the day that they're born that they are making sense of how the world works and are developing the cognitive, emotional, social, physical, and creative skills that they will need to thrive and succeed in that world. And two, that these first 3 years, or what many refer to as the first 1,000 days of a child's life, are where the vast majority of their brain development occurs and are therefore some of the most important and critical days and years for setting children up for lifelong success. When you combine these two sets of facts, it becomes so clear how important it is to invest in creating and supporting ways for children to have access to high quality play-based learning experiences from the day that they're born, part of their ongoing development and future success in school and in life. And when we talk about supporting children, especially children from birth to 3, there are no people more important in a child's life than their parents and caregivers. And I feel like our understanding of that truth has come even further into focus during this global pandemic, when in so many ways, parents have lost so many of the supports that they had previously relied on to help them raise their children. A personal aside, my wife and I gave birth to our first child on April 3rd of this year. For the last 8 months, we've embraced the joys and the challenges of being new parents and raising our son. And I've been overwhelmed with the joy that comes from engaging and playing with him and watching the incredible speed at which he is learning and developing and growing. The joy a month ago when we watched him finally figure out how to roll from his belly to his back, and how it has enabled him to roll around the house in search of exciting new things to get his tiny little hands on. The laughter that ensues from a simple game of peekaboo. The calming effect of his mother singing him songs at the end of the day as we prepare him for bedtime, and how somehow my raucous singing seems to have the completely opposite effect on him. It's been an incredible moment in time for us as a young family. And yet it's also been an incredibly isolating time. When I think about this moment in time, parents and families around the world are having to navigate a world that's changed overnight. COVID has disrupted nearly every aspect of life and all aspects of the systems that were in place to support children and families. It's now more than ever that we all need to be working together, thinking critically and taking action to support families who need it most, and finding ways to support parents' ability to provide nurturing and responsive care to their young children, care that embraces the playful nature in which children learn and grow best. I'm really looking forward to today's conversation and the opportunity to hear from a number of experts and practitioners from across Africa and the world who are doing really incredible work designed to do just that. We'll get to hear about their experiences strengthening and supporting playful and joyful learning in the home. And as we all listen today, I hope we can all take the time to reflect on the experiences and expertise that will be shared and to consider how we can leverage and build on the lessons learned from our colleagues, as well as how we can all be working together to continue to strengthen our support for children and families in Africa and around the world. Thank you again for allowing me to share these remarks, to be here today for what I know will be a truly insightful and inspiring discussion. And most importantly, thank you to all of you for all the work that you're doing to support children and families. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Aaron, for those very motivating opening remarks. And congratulations on being a daddy. I think it's very endearing listening to those early experiences. And I guess it becomes all the more special when you have when you have actually had all the theory and now the practical is coming to you. So congratulations on that. Enjoy your child, and I'm sure he will enjoy you too. Thank you for bringing that to us, and also the big message from Lego on the importance of the early years and how we can grow that in our various spaces. Thank you, and I'll transition the session now over to our chair, Caroline Dusabi. And Caroline is the ECCD senior specialist at Save the Children. And she provides technical support to countries in sub-Saharan Africa. She's had educational professional experience for more than 12 years. A fun fact about Caroline is that she's a published author of children's books. So welcome, Caroline. We are really happy to have you as the chair of this session today. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. My job here is really simple, and really my pleasure to welcome different speakers who are going to be sharing with us about playful and joyful parenting. At the beginning of this session, we saw a video that was highlighting to us, some of the many benefits of playful, joyful parenting, and Aaron has also shared with us some of those. We know that playful, joyful parenting is really important and critical for the healthy development of children. We know having playful, joyful parenting experiences builds children's brains. And also during this period of COVID, we know that having joyful, playful experiences will buffer against stress. And we know that stress damages children's brains, but we also remember that it's also fun for parents, it's also interesting for parents, and also it reduces stress for parents. There is a lot of research that shows that engaging in playful, joyful parenting activities like singing, reading will reduce stress for both the parents and the children. And I think this is really critical during this time, where parents are going through a lot of stress. But we also know that we also know the importance of playful, joyful parenting in supporting children's learning during this time when most of the countries have had school closures for more than 9 months. Joyful, playful parenting is one way to mitigate learning loss. At Save the Children, we've carried out a study estimating learning loss resulting from COVID-19 school closures, and using data sets from studies done previously, 2019, 2018, we find that According to our estimates, those children who have high quality, playful, joyful experiences in the home will have a better buffer against learning loss. So we also today will be hearing about quality. So we should be talking not only about having playful, joyful parenting, but we should be also talking about how to improve the quality of that joyful and parenting experience. Joyful parenting is not new to Africa. So most of the time what we are talking about is improving the quality and also the frequency, because we know these two things, quality and frequency, are what will bring the benefit, the maximum benefit for children and parents. Without much further ado, I will introduce to you our keynote speaker today, Mildred Obuya. She is the director and founder of Early Childhood Matters. She is a leading expert in early childhood development. She has lots of experience working with parents, both at home, in the community, and also in daycare and preschool settings. And she will be sharing with us her experience on how they are promoting joyful, playful parenting through her organization. Welcome, Mildred.
Thank you very much, Cara, for that introduction. Thank you, AFCAN, and all the strategic partners for really bringing together today the key stakeholders to join in a conversation that I'm sure is very dear to all of us. I like the tone, just the title from Playful, Joyful Parenting. It really brings an alive in us because it's something that's dear to us. I think just even drawing from our own memories of what play looked like as children, I think we are beneficiaries today of some form of engagement of play that somebody took us through. So I just like to start with some key statements, and I'd invite Darren, if you could kindly share the screen. And one of the things about today is that I know we are representative of either parents or key players within organizations that provide play, or even simply those who are learning on how to educate the community on play. So play is an integral part of children's development, and that's something that we are all in agreement with, that parents and caregivers understand that they have a wonderful opportunity to grow relationships within their day-to-day activities within the home setting, and that we, the community at large, through our programs, through our interactions, must protect children's right to play and support each other so that children are constantly creatively engaged, making every single moment count for them. So parents and caregivers alike, playful, joyful parenting at home is simply referring to the opportunities that we have where we're intentional about every moment we spend with the children and using play as an opportunity for positive interactions and creating many wonderful and memorable moments. Within our context, we look at play as assisting learning and self-development, and whether play is taking place spontaneously or it is planned, it is valuable in the holistic development of the children. Next slide, please. So I tried to get a little bit creative with the R's just as part of this keynote, and these R's will apply to both parents or service providers or key stakeholders. And our first R will be the right, and then I'll go to responsibility, relationships, reach opportunities, and raising awareness. Next slide, please. So throughout these webinar series, a lot has been talked about the right of every child having a right to engage and play. And you know, this, we cannot talk about this enough. Although it seems like something we repeat a lot, it is really the foundation of why we believe in what we do and why we do things the way we do them. That every child must have the right to play, to rest in leisure, to engage in recreational activities appropriate to the age, and participate freely in cultural life and arts. That member governments shall respect and promote the right of the child to participate in cultural and artistic life and shall encourage the provision of appropriate and equal opportunities for cultural, artistic, recreational, and leisure activity. And this is, of course, Article 34, the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. But what is interesting is that play, just like a healthy diet, is something that we know we all need, and yet sometimes it's something that we really don't take time to make sure that it happens properly for the children. So I'll start off with our first R and our second R, and which really is the responsibility. What is the responsibility of we, the key players? What is the responsibility of the parent? What is the responsibility of the caregiver? And every parent or caregiver has the responsibility to ensure that children get opportunities to engage in meaningful, safe, creative, and fun activities which will add to their growth and development. So our key responsibility lies in ensuring that activities that we give children are engaging and age appropriate. That as children continue to grow, whether it's, like Aaron shared from his young child who's currently just playing peekaboo, and as they get older, that we're making sure that our level of engagement is constantly increasing to be appropriate with the age that the child or the milestone that the child is meeting. That the play environment continues to be safe, and whether it's the physical or the mental environment, is that we're protecting children's safety to make sure that they're away from any harm and danger, that the children have an opportunity to make a choice. That, although we have a setting, for example, that we have children having the right to say, this is what I'd like to do today. This is what I'd like to try out. That we as adults, as much as possible, or caregivers or parents, are taking a back role and understand that children are aware that they can make choices even within their play. That where applicable, a child has adequate play materials. And traditionally, when we think of play materials, our mind probably runs to toys, but simple day-to-day things around the house, homemade balls. One of the most popular toys in the home is taking, for example, an old sock and stuffing it and making a ball, or making it become a doll. These are just simple things that we can provide for children to ensure that they have these meaningful moments. Old clothes, dress-up clothes, hats, parents' shoes, things that we take for granted and around us all the time, that these, where applicable, can be used as toys. That parents have the responsibility, caregivers have the responsibilities to create a routine for children so that every day a child is having a little bit of play. People like to ask, how much play should a child engage in every day? And I say that play should not be prescriptive, but at least every day, allowing for moments for the child to play. And wellness of the parent or caregiver is the responsibility of the parent or the caregiver to ensure that for us to have a safe, a fun, a meaningful engagement with the children, that we ourselves check that, are we well? Are we calm? Are we able to interact with the child in a way that they feel affirmed, that they feel loved? And I'll go to the next one, and that's the relationships. As we keep well and we are mindful of our state, these periods, for example, when the pandemic has changed dynamics in the family and everybody has a little bit of stress, it's somewhat taking away from, what would seem like positive relationships. However, opportunities of play and meaningful interactions between the parent and the child allow for strong bonds to form between parent and child. And this secure relationship allows a child to know that the parent or the caregiver is present and responsive. So as you engage in playful, joyful moments at home, you're growing a relationship. You're enhancing deep relationships with your child. And we all know that a child's development trajectory is critically mediated by relationships which are loving and consistent from either the parent or caregiver as they relate with the children through play. So despite the hurried lifestyle, the changing dynamics that we're going through, it's still important for us to encourage parents and caregivers to put in the time that they may constantly interact with one another. Children thrive when there's they sense that there is a bond growing between themselves and the caregiver, themselves and the adult. So as a parent or a caregiver, or just one who is educating the community, we are on a journey of discovery. We're learning the child is learning us, we're learning how to regulate our emotions around them, they're learning how to respond to instruction and how to regulate emotions around us too. Let's go to the next slide, please. And these are the rich opportunities. So one of the beauties about these webinar series is that they're teaching us what are the opportunities we have around as organizations, as families, just to make these things happen for the children. The home setting provides a rich opportunity for parents to engage children in play, and in so doing, allow children to take risks, to solve problems, develop their creativity, develop their imagination, and learn how to adapt to new situations. Moments that we create for children to play and interact with us joyfully give the children opportunity to learn about themselves and to learn about the world around them at large. And as they do so, you'll find that the children conquer their fears, develop their competencies, and discover their own areas of interest. Every moment spent interacting with your child counts, and this is the message that we should constantly share, that we have hundreds and hundreds of opportunities where adults and children can interact and get the best out of the interaction. You know, and we don't have to think of big things. It's the little moments that constantly come. A moment when you are setting the table with your child, you're telling your child, okay, I put out 4 plates, give me 4 spoons, give me 4 cups. You know, this is, your child is beginning to develop their cognitive skills. When you're outside racing, you know, parents like to engage, quote unquote, their children in a race. And those moments of laughter are so beautiful. A family band where you're taken out, we call them superiors or pans, and you've got your wooden spoons or your muecos or your, you know, your, what do we call them? The spoons, the forks, everything that can be banged on, tables, the family band enjoying. These are moments that are so simple to do and children appreciate them. Pretend play moments, scarves, you know, necklaces, parents' shoes, and I talked about that. These are opportunities where you're developing your children's vocabulary. Meal times, you're discussing the texture of the meals, the colors, the shapes of things, simple things like molding with Play-Doh, when children have opportunities to to engage in make-believe games and just roll out things and describe what they are, you know, and the list is endless. Use of words that encourage children to just learn new vocabulary, to imagine things. And I could go on and on, but just because the time doesn't allow, and I'm sure other panelists will talk about these moments, I'll leave it there. And so I'll go to our last hour for today, and that is raising awareness. We as a community, as parents, as key players, have the sole responsibility to ensure that we're continually providing support, like these sessions, through trainings, sharing of ideas, demonstrating to parents and caregivers so that they can embrace the idea of play and understand the rich opportunities that they have within the home setting. So we raise awareness through continued encouragement to parents and caregivers, encourage them to enjoy the trust relationship that already exists. And in most cases, this is what is the foundation for creating many joyful and playful moments. Let's continue to share ideas with parents and caregivers on how to engage in structured play, but also non-structured play. And to do this, we all have to be the voices of change in the community, ensuring that the demands of a high-paced life or socioeconomic settings do not take away from the children's right to play. We need to continue raising awareness on what the neuroscience is saying by sharing the research that's available and representing the evidence that enrichment such as toys, games, and playing can alter brain chemistry and physiology, that we use various opportunities available to us, that we need to teach and share ideas with parents on the different stages, encouraging them to be part of every stage and every moment, because these moments come so quickly and pass so quickly, and that play will support responsive relationships and strengthen core skills and make childhood years magical. Let's learn and share And as we share, we learn. And as we learn, we share. And our last slide, please. So playful, joyful moments do not just happen in the home setting. We have to be intentional to make them happen. And when they do happen, we affect and change an entire generation for the better. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mildred. That was fantastic. Oh my God. That was really, really good in setting the stage for the next presenters. I really liked the 5 R's. I think many of our participants also liked it. They are requesting for the slides. And I think we are all going to start promoting the 5 R's in all our work. I really liked what you said about the fact that play is as important as a diet. Play like a healthy diet is something we need. Yes, it's fuel for our brain and yeah, even our hearts. So yeah, let us continue promoting play as something really vital for both children, but also for adults. I was beginning to feel like I want to, go down and start playing. My son is not yet home, but I can't wait to practice some of the ideas that you shared with us. I also really like the emphasis on the age appropriateness. We have to make sure that we are giving children, enough to be able to feel challenged, to learn new things, always extending their learning by modifying the activities so that they are appropriate for their age and the stage at which they are at. And I also really appreciated your emphasis on the parents. A lot of the times we are, telling parents, go out, play, this is how to play, this is how to improve the quality of the playful experiences with your children, but we are not saying enough about why it's important for parents to also take care of themselves. So thank you so much for raising that issue. If parents are not well, if they are not attuned with themselves, they are not able to provide the playful, joyful experiences that are really needed. So it's also, a point that myself I will take, and I think colleagues on the call will also be taking forward. And I also appreciated you mentioning the idea of being intentional. It doesn't just happen. We have to, yes, take advantage of all the moments in the day, little moments during feeding time, during bath time. Every opportunity is a opportunity for playful, joyful parenting experience, but we have to be intentional as parents. So thank you so much for that. We are going to enter a very interesting session where we are going to have a number of panelists share with us their experience on the ground, putting into practice some of these principles and strategies that Mildred has shared with us. And we are going to be having Katie Anis as our moderator. Katie Anis is the Early Childhood Development Team Manager at the Open Societies Foundation. She is an expert in ECD with more than 30 years experience. Fun fact about Katie is she speaks 7 languages. If I'm not mistaken, one of those languages is Amharic, which is quite unique. So welcome, Katie. And you have the floor to also introduce to us the different panelists and also lead us through this component of our webinar. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you so much, and thank you to Afghan for bringing all of us together around this important topic, how to weave play into all of our interactions with children. And we have a fantastic group with us here today, representing really unique interventions across the continent, as well as bringing in other continental experiences with us. So our first panelist I will introduce to you is Eli Harasawa, and she has just come to us from being the leader of the National Secretary for the Promotion of Human Development at the Ministry of Citizenship in Brazil. She was leading the largest home visiting program in the world. And there is a lot to learn from what she has to share with us. So I think we will start with learning from Brazil's experience, and then we're going to come and go across the continent. And I'll ask you if Ellie speaks in Portuguese for our Lusophone audiences across Africa, feel free to just go down to the bottom and click on the interpretation, and you can put it into English, French, or whichever language suits you. All right, so I'm going to turn this over to Ellie, and thank you so much for joining us and bringing the unique experience that the movement that Brazil has been able to foment.
Bom dia a todos. E, primeiramente, gostaria de agradecer essa oportunidade, não só de apresentar a experiência que eu tive o privilégio de implementar e a responsabilidade de implementar no país, no Brasil, mas também de aprender. Estava ouvindo aqui a apresentação da professora Mildred Obuya, e eu fiquei muito feliz de compartilhar com ela todos os 5 conceitos dos 5 R's que nós também adotamos no nosso programa nacional. Eu vou aqui apresentar rapidamente, porque eu tenho o desafio dos 5 minutos, e eu, então, vou apresentar inicialmente já um vídeo para que vocês tenham uma ideia mais concreta de como do que é o programa, e esse vídeo foi produzido pela Fundação do Catar, que nos concedeu no ano passado o prêmio WISE, reconhecimento de boas práticas em educação, embora o programa não seja de educação. Opa! Vocês veem a apresentação?
Não vemos.
Opa!
Yes, we can see the presentation.
Sorry. Pronto. Bom, o Brasil é um país bastante diverso e muito grande, né? De uma população de 211 milhões de habitantes, nós temos 10 milhões de crianças de 0 a 3 anos, sendo que 40% dessas crianças vivem na pobreza ou extrema pobreza. O Brasil também tem, desde essa Constituição de 1988, a criança, a infância, como um ator importante no país, né? Desde então, nós temos aprimorado essa legislação com o Estatuto da Criança, logo em seguida, em 1990, e, finalmente, em 2016, num processo muito participativo da sociedade, nós temos um marco legal específico para a primeira infância. E isso trouxe muitas inovações e aprimoramento para que a primeira infância seja privilegiada e entre na pauta política e social do país. Não sei se vocês já ouviram falar, mas o Brasil tem um programa chamado Bolsa Família, que é um programa de transferência de renda, que trouxe muitas oportunidades para combater a pobreza e dar um apoio às famílias mais pobres, né? Esse programa existe desde 2003, e no caso da população da primeira infância, de 0 a 6 anos, as questões de garantir os acessos aos direitos, especialmente na saúde, foram garantidos, especialmente para gestantes, garantindo consultas de pré-natal através das condicionalidades, e para crianças pequenas, o acompanhamento do desenvolvimento e a cobertura vacinal. Isso rendeu ao país um aumento da cobertura vacinal e a melhoria do grau nutricional das crianças, muito importante. Existem inúmeros estudos aí que comprovam isso, né? E a partir desta experiência, mas que com uma ideia de que nós temos que avançar na diminuição, no combate à pobreza e diminuição das desigualdades, foi criado o programa Criança Feliz, através de um decreto presidencial em 2016. Sob o enfoque desse marco legal da primeira infância, que traz inovações importantes para a garantia do desenvolvimento mais saudável das crianças. O objetivo do programa é acompanhar e orientar as famílias com crianças de 0 a 6 anos do cadastro único, oferecendo instrumentos para que os pais possam estimular o desenvolvimento integral dos filhos através do brincar. Cadastro único é um cadastro nacional onde as famílias mais pobres podem se inscrever para que elas tenham acesso aos vários programas sociais do governo federal. Esse programa exigiu uma forte parceria da União com os estados e municípios, são 5.570 municípios, mas que podem aderir voluntariamente ao programa, né? Isso significou uma parceria respeitando a autonomia de cada ente federado, isso significou uma construção de uma aliança com cada um dos estados e 3.000 municípios até o momento. O programa tem duas grandes estratégias, que são as visitas domiciliares e, a partir dessas visitas, a integração dos serviços e das políticas disponíveis nos territórios, nos municípios. Isso se dá através nos centros de referência da assistência social, que estão presentes em todos os municípios do país, né? Nós temos uma metodologia utilizada, que é o CCD, o Care for Child Development, desenvolvido pelo Unicef e a Organização Mundial da Saúde, e os planos de intervenção são individualizados para cada família que é atendida, né? E é o primeiro programa, fora o programa de saúde da família, onde a política vai até as famílias, né? Nesse momento de pandemia, ou seja, desde março deste ano, nós pudemos garantir que a proteção social fosse considerado na legislação como um serviço essencial. Nesse sentido, nós não podíamos parar esse atendimento, especialmente no momento de grande ansiedade, grande angústia mesmo dessas famílias, especialmente as mais vulneráveis, que é o nosso público prioritário. Nesse sentido, eu acho que a pandemia nos trouxe uma oportunidade de desenvolver mais ferramentas online que pudesse estar reforçando a formação permanente dos profissionais que estão nesses municípios. Hoje são 25 mil visitadores e supervisores, e também atividades remotas que pudessem estar garantindo o atendimento, que essas famílias não ficassem sem o atendimento. Então, foram utilizados telefones, vídeos, WhatsApp e várias ferramentas que nós, no nível federal, desenvolvemos para que os visitadores dos municípios pudessem estar garantindo esse atendimento semanal a essas crianças, né? Esse outro aspecto, a outra estratégia do programa é poder articular de forma e trabalhar de forma intersetorial em todas as esferas, federal, estadual e municipal, para que esse desenvolvimento pudesse ser integral e integrado, né? Então, são 5 ministérios que participam de um comitê gestor, que trazem as suas políticas também para que a gente possa fazer um trabalho mais integrado. É isso. Muito obrigada pela oportunidade.
Muito obrigada a você, Ellie. That was really, really impressive to hear about 25,000 home visitors, 2 million people being visited, and what's really impressive, I think, is the legislation and the state policies that are prioritizing development, that have led the way for this massive expansion. So thank you so much for sharing with the African continent what Brazil has been able to move forward. Now we are going to move on to another part of the continent. We are going to hear from Charles Muruka, who is a program specialist with Mothers to Mothers in Kenya. And he has worked across community health and integrated case management with orphans and vulnerable children, working to prevent transmission of HIV/AIDS. And right now, what he's currently engaged in is integrating nurturing care and health applications into programs with community health workers. So I'm going to pass it over to Charles to share with us his experience. And again, I'll ask you if you'd like to hear Charles' presentation in French or in Portuguese, please go to the little globe on the right side of your screen, click interpretation, and then you can choose to hear the language in which you would like to hear Charles speak.
Thank you very much, Katie. So I'll share with you our experience in Kenya, how we have managed to promote nurturing care through an integrated early childhood development and reproductive maternal newborn child health program. Next slide. Next slide. So this map shows our footprints in the continent of Africa, where we have had previous ECD projects and where we also have active or current ECT projects. And that is currently in Kenya, where I am, and in Ghana, Malawi, and in South Africa. And we have previous programs that have also closed in Eswatini, Lesotho, and also previously in Kenya and Uganda. Next slide. So our goal is that HIV positive HIV exposed, and other young vulnerable children have improved health, well-being, and developmental outcomes. That's the goal that we are working towards, split into 4 objectives. Next slide. So the first objective, traditionally M2M started by implementing an RMNCH program. And our first objective is to fully integrate early childhood development programming into our traditional program, which is reproductive maternal newborn child health and prevention of mother-to-child transmission through a peer mentorship approach. Our second objective is to improve the health and well-being of these vulnerable and other young children so that they have reduced risk of HIV transmission from mother to child, and they also access child health care services as recommended. Our third objective is to improve the health and well-being of pregnant women and mothers of young children, and these essentially are the caregivers who fall under the second R, who have the responsibility to provide nurturing care and engage in playful parenting with the young children. And that cannot happen if they are not well. Our fourth and last objective is to create a safe and stimulating environment for early childhood development in households, at the health centers where we work, and also in the communities that we work, so that children can realize their right to play in a safe and stimulating environment. Next slide. So the key activities that we do is that we provide high intensity case management, initially starting with monthly household visits, but we are moving towards bi-weekly household visits, and we are aiming finally for weekly household visits, depending on resources. And this high intensity case management is targeted at those clients whom we have assessed as most vulnerable. And our peer mentors, who are community healthcare workers known as mentor mothers, they provide advice, information, and psychosocial support to these caregivers. They also provide referrals and linkages to the facility and other services. Again, at the household level, our peer mentors or mentor mothers conduct a range of assessments. So they conduct a maternal mental health assessment using a set of questions that are available in a digital health application to assess the mental health of the mother, of course, which is very critical for ensuring that they are able to engage in playful, joyful parenting. They also conduct household hygiene and safety assessments just to check that the child is in an environment that is safe for their play, that hazardous and risky materials are controlled or mitigated. They also assess responsive caregiving, again, through a set of questions by asking the caregivers whether during the last 3 days prior to the visit, they have engaged in any age-appropriate cognitive stimulation, physical stimulation, language and communication stimulation with the child. They also assess positive discipline every 6 months, just to check that children are not being subjected to harsh discipline, but instead positive discipline is practiced. Lastly, not lastly, but next, they also assess the child developmental milestones at every 3-month intervals and document that on the digital health applications. In terms of nutrition, they provide nutrition education. And apart from that, they also conduct nutrition screening using that simple tool called the MWACTIP. The other very, very important activity that our peer mentors engage in and advise and motivate caregivers to practice is early book sharing, which is the introduction of picture books early enough in a child's life. And later I'll quickly talk in the next slide more about it. Lastly, our home visitors or peer mentors conduct parenting groups every month, and these are integrated with play groups, usually lasting 2 hours. So the first 1 hour is spent on facilitated discussion about parenting topics of interest, for example, nutrition, positive discipline, and others. And the last 1 hour is then spent with the parents engaging in play with their children, and a set of toy kits is usually provided. Of course, most of what I've described is in the pre-COVID period, but we'll see what happens after COVID came. Next slide, please. So on this slide, on the left, you can see that traditionally, we have been implementing our program through a face-to-face approach, direct engagement of the peer mentor with the client. But when COVID came, again, COVID erected a huge barrier. And within about 1 month, M2M further introduced technology within its delivery strategy to ensure that clients continued to receive our services via weekly phone calls, scripted weekly phone calls to every client, especially those that had been assessed as high risk. Apart from the weekly phone calls by the peer mentors, we also introduced a virtual mentor-mother platform, which is an interactive WhatsApp messaging platform that any caregiver with a smartphone can access through a link, and through a menu interact with the platform and get replies to any information that they've requested, typically within less than a minute. Initially, the information was purely on COVID, but within another 1 month of its introduction, the information was enhanced into other areas like healthy pregnancy and motherhood, early childhood, and others. Next slide, please. So when we look at our 2019 program data, especially in Kenya and Malawi, we see that 94% of children enrolled in our integrated ECD RMNCH programs reached all of their developmental milestones at the age of 12 months. And we think that is significant. Also, we see in the Kenya program that 11% of moms or caregivers experienced a sustained improvement in their coping mechanisms as they engage in responsive caregiving to their children. Next slide. So on this slide, you can see a children's play corner in action in one of the health centers where we work here in Nairobi. And in the children's play corner, it is facilitated again by our mentor mothers, and a set of toy kits is provided, and the children exercise their right to play and to explore and to learn through engaging in supervised play as they wait for their clinical services to be served. Next slide. So on this slide, we are depicting the early book sharing concept, which we have introduced in our program. And like I said, this is the introduction of picture books early enough in the child's life, as long as they can see and they can be held on a mother's lap, like the one that is held on the mother's lap. And through that engagement, both the caregiver and the child explore the pictures in these wordless picture books. And through this exploration, of course, they engage in a conversational exchange, which is a good example of the concept of serve and return, which is critical in a child's brain development. Of course, also, as mentioned earlier by Mildred, the relationships through this close engagement of the caregiver and the child, that relationship that is necessary for responsive caregiving and for the child's social and emotional development is built. So that depicts, and you can see, before I move to the next slide, you can see that the child on the lap is about 9 months old, but is very, very interested in the pictures that are in the book, and is engaged in a kind of conversation with the caregiver to see what is happening in the picture, what happens next. And also what we have seen is that sometimes the children, those ones who can speak, they sometimes want to impersonate some of the images within these picture books and say, this is me doing A, B, C, D, etc. Next slide. On this slide, you can see 2 children in one of the areas where we work, and they have a homemade landline telephone, and I think they're having a conversation. So again, they're engaging in play, and of course, the parents have played a role in availing these play materials and giving them the opportunity to play as advised by our home visitors or peer mentors or mentor mothers. Next slide. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Charles. This is great to hear. We've heard about how government legislation can transform child development, and you've been showing us how you can integrate child development and play into health interventions for better child outcomes. Now we are going to move on to Dida Guerra, who is from the Association for the Defense and Development of Society, or ADESU, in Mozambique. And Dida has worked a lot with family creches, with parental education, with school support, and also home garden projects, and integrating these home-based approaches to impact early child development. So we're going to hear from Dida, and I'll ask you again, if Dida speaks in Portuguese, feel free to go to the interpretation button on the lower right-hand corner, and you can choose the language that you would like to hear it in, and we'll ask all of the panelists if you can just remember to keep your presentations to 5 minutes, just so we have enough time for questions and answers at the end. So from here, bem-vindo, Dida. You can go ahead.
Muito obrigado por esta oportunidade que dão a mim, dão a ADESU, para poder partilhar sua experiência nesse muito importante evento. E obrigado particularmente por dar essa possibilidade de poder intervir com recurso à língua, com a qual eu fico mais à vontade português. Bom, é assim, primeiro, parabenizar as brilhantes apresentações que foram feitas anteriormente à volta dessa abordagem, esse assunto que é extremamente muito importante. Falando sobre a ADESU, sim, eu sou o presidente executivo da ADESU, e a ADESU é uma associação praticamente comunitária de base, que em inglês podemos chamar de Community Based Organization. Temos ligação com a Rede para o Desenvolvimento da Primeira Infância, somos fundadores da Rede para o Desenvolvimento da Primeira Infância. Eu, pessoalmente, trabalhei nesse processo de criação da rede e até agora sou membro do Conselho de Direção. Bom, a nossa experiência como organização comunitária de base nessa questão de DPI não está muito distante daquilo que realmente é a realidade um pouco gritante de Moçambique. Por que a realidade gritante? Porque, infelizmente, nós estamos ainda numa fase bastante recuada em relação ao DPI, porque há uma percepção muito limitada em relação, sobre o DPI. Há uma tendência quase que generalizada por todo o país de que o DPI significa exatamente ensino, educação pré-escolar. E uma das grandes agendas de advocacia da nossa rede RDPI é exatamente provar o contrário, de que a educação pré-escolar é apenas uma parte do DPI, do ICD. O ICD é muito mais do que isso. Agora, em relação a essa abordagem de Playful Parenting, Joyful Parenting, na verdade é um grande desafio, porque nós temos uma primeira barreira, que é a questão do próprio acesso ao ensino pré-escolar. Estamos a falar de percentagem abaixo de 10% das crianças até aos 5, 6 anos que conseguem ter acesso a uma instituição de ensino pré-escolar. E exatamente por causa desse fator, nós achamos que era importante procurar formas de como abranger outras crianças que estão praticamente com fraca oportunidade, de modo a que pudéssemos incentivar ou promover o acesso aos serviços de DPI em linha com o que realmente são essas abordagens atuais. E por causa disso, o primeiro desafio que nós enfrentamos como organização, temos vindo a enfrentar como organização, é exatamente a barreira cultural, não é? Porque nós estamos num contexto em que, na maioria das culturas, assume-se que a criança, da nascença até os 5, 6 anos, normalmente a responsabilidade de tomar conta dela, educá-la e desenvolver todos esses domínios é exclusiva da mãe. Então, para poder quebrar essa barreira, é realmente o primeiro desafio. Conseguimos algumas oportunidades. A oportunidade qual é? É que, felizmente, noutros setores da sociedade, concretamente, por exemplo, no setor da saúde, já existem iniciativas no sentido de procurar envolver os pais naquilo que tem sido até as consultas pré-natais, de forma a promover aquilo que é o seu envolvimento na educação ou no desenvolvimento da criança. Então, partindo dessa porta de entrada, nós também começamos a trazer essas abordagens de ligação, de fomento da participação dos pais no desenvolvimento das suas crianças. Mas, concretamente, no nosso modelo, nós começamos por uma iniciativa que nós chamamos de creche familiar, que é exatamente o ICD baseado no domicílio, que funciona da seguinte forma. Nós constatamos que em comunidades muito carenciadas, sobretudo em zonas periurbanas, como, por exemplo, cada cidade de Maputo, bairros periféricos, há uma prática segundo a qual senhoras com experiência de mãe, passando situação de pobreza, recebem nas suas casas crianças de outras senhoras e ficam com elas a tomar conta delas durante o dia, enquanto as mães dessas crianças vão aos seus afazeres como empregadas domésticas, pequenos negócios nos mercados, por aí em diante. E nós constatamos que o que faziam essas senhoras com essas crianças, a sua tarefa se resume apenas em poder monitorar o movimento da criança e não faziam mais nada. Portanto, não havia portanto, uma rotina um pouco organizada, uma rotina estruturada. E nós, como ADESO, começamos a trabalhar com essas senhoras, garantindo que pudéssemos enriquecer um pouco mais aqui que é a sua rotina, o seu trabalho com as crianças. E foi por aí que nós começamos. No contexto da Covid-19, quando entra a Covid-19, aí tivemos que praticamente tudo parou, a semelhança daquilo que aconteceu também um pouco por todos os outros países. As pessoas tiveram que ficar em casa e fomos tentando encontrar outras formas. Mas antes da Covid-19, nós já estávamos praticamente a tentar introduzir praticamente outras componentes, que é exatamente essa componente de envolvimento dos pais encarregados de educação nessa questão dos cuidados das crianças. E é exatamente essa abordagem de educação baseada nas brincadeiras. Por quê? Porque por causa da pressão social, aliada a essa questão cultural, sucede que muitos pais praticamente pensam que a sua principal obrigação, a sua principal preocupação tem que ser única e exclusivamente trazer renda em casa, ou seja, procurar sustentar a família. E por causa disso, pensa que tomar conta da criança não é preocupação deles. Mas nós começamos a trazer uma mensagem nova, e aí aproveitamos também da nossa própria experiência com pais encarregados de educação. Eu mesmo tenho uma criança, por exemplo, agora dos seus 3 anos, e fomos partilhando essas experiências. Portanto, nós desenvolvemos uma comunicação de pares, não é? Nós, como jovens, conversamos com outros jovens e buscamos praticamente quebrar aquilo que é a barreira, trazer portanto um ambiente um pouco mais informal. E aí entramos através das sessões de educação parental. Mas nós procuramos trazer um ambiente um pouco mais descontraído, conversando de jovem para jovem, perguntando, por exemplo, o que você acha que é muito importante para seu filho, suponhamos, entre a sua presença e talvez um presente que você possa comprar. E daí, praticamente, fomos construindo um ambiente de confiança e, praticamente, fomos também trazendo alguns testemunhos das próprias crianças. Encontrávamos, por exemplo, conversamos antes com a criança, que é, por exemplo, o filho de um jovem. Depois, naquela conversa, nós passamos um pequeno vídeo a mostrar mais ou menos aquilo que são as expectativas da criança em relação à relação dele com o pai, não é? Então, essa mensagem tem estado praticamente a ter um impacto muito positivo, porque é algo descontraído e praticamente temos estado a notar praticamente um crescimento de consciência da parte desses pais em poder efetivamente estar a dar cada vez mais uma parte do seu tempo para com as crianças. E o Brasil tem estado a nos ajudar muito, porque é um país que tem um processo de desenvolvimento idêntico a Moçambique. E exemplo do Brasil, temos ido, por exemplo, ao YouTube, a gente busca os vídeos, naquelas nossas sessões, passamos praticamente um vídeo e mostra mais ou menos aquilo que são os modelos, aquilo que são as tendências atuais, testemunhos de alguns pais em outros países sobre a sua relação com as crianças e a mostrar mais ou menos até que ponto é que os seus vínculos afetivos com a criança desenvolveram muito a partir do momento que começaram a despender uma parte do seu tempo. E tem estado a ficar claro que as crianças conseguem perceber quando nós estamos preocupados. E elas praticamente se solidarizam, tem uma forma de como poder apoiar, e elas precisam de sentir os pais cada vez mais próximos. Isso faz com que se estimule cada vez mais o nível de confiança, e na fase de crescimento, esse ambiente de aproximação acaba se traduzindo em impactos muito positivos, porque alguns comportamentos desviantes que as crianças vão tendo na sua adolescência e na juventude é por causa dessa falta de um ambiente de confiança delas para com os pais, para poderem confessar alguns segredos, para poder partilhar algumas confidências, e isso faz com que elas optem por revelar segredos à pessoa de fora, confiar em pessoas de fora, e depois acabam se metendo em condutas incorretas. Portanto, nós como adultos estamos muito satisfeitos com a forma como praticamente isso está a gerar resultados. Hoje estamos a falar que temos uma comunidade de mais de 150 pais e também respectivas mães, porque também isso acontece também a nível das mães. Temos mães muito novas que às vezes se envolvem em vidas um pouco desviantes. Então, temos estado a fazer esse modelo de educação de pares e tem estado a ser muito funcional. O Horta Caseira é um programa de suporte que, no âmbito do Covid-19, nós encontramos mecanismos de como promover um confinamento saudável, um confinamento produtivo. Entramos com essa abordagem, pequenas hortas caseiras, porque as pessoas, estando em casa, pudessem fazer alguma coisa para não tornar o confinamento muito entediante. Então, a conjugação desse programa tem estado a ser muito interessante. O pedido que eu tenho aqui a fazer é o seguinte: eu penso que é importante que a AFCAN possa produzir alguma coisa, como, por exemplo, alguns guiões, que talvez podiam falar de toolkits, que é para poder orientar mais a nós como organizações, nas nossas intervenções, para que possamos ter modelos muito mais enriquecidos, de modo a que possamos ter mais impacto nas nossas ações. Muito obrigado.
Muito obrigada a você, Dida. Foi muito interessante. So thank you so much, Dida, for presenting the way that your organization is approaching child development and building relationships with children. From here, we are going to move on to our next presenter, and we are going to hear from Mercedes Gertrude Capulisa, and she is the director of the Archie Hinchcliffe Disability Intervention in Zambia, and she has worked with children with disabilities for more than 20 years, and she has helped children come to a place where they could enjoy independent living and gain access to formal schooling. And so we are going to hear Professor Issa talk a little bit to us about her experiences and the integration of playful parenting into her work. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Kathy and the group. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, we can. Okay.
Yeah, like she said, I'm Praxides Gertrude Capulisa. I work for Archie Hinchcliffe Disability Intervention, an organization that focuses on providing physiotherapy and home-based education to children with disabilities. Our target group is 0 to 15. Mainly the children that are on the program we have about 80% of children with cerebral palsy and other allied conditions. The other conditions like fractures and other post-surgical, we usually just refer them to other areas, but we focus mostly on developmental children with neurodevelopmental conditions. We do physiotherapy in outreach centers. We work with the government, and we provide play therapy. And there's a lot of play going on, and education of the parents and the volunteers working with us and with other physios under government. But in this case, I would like to discuss on the issue of home-based education vis-a-vis what we are looking at as playful and joyful parenting. For us, we have been working with children with a disability on the program. I'm sure we are all aware that in most cases, children with disabilities have been left out on the main system of the educational system. And most of the time, the developmental skills, they are usually delayed. So with this strategy, we've seen quite a number of positive outcomes. But to just mention a few things, like when you find a child with a disability, they are not able to go to a formal school, even when they reach 7 years, which is a required age to go to school. But before that, they also need that education of their own, the skills that can help them to be able to participate in the formal school. So the home-based education provides an opportunity for these children to acquire the different skills at home. And usually, even when they go to school, you find the teachers are not well equipped, the teaching material is not there, infrastructure is not accessible. And usually you find that in the community, the parents of children with disabilities and the community at large, they don't see it necessary for a child with a disability to go to school, to acquire skills, to have adventure, something to enjoy their environment. You know, education in Zana most of the time is found in schools. That in schools, so this helps in the outskirts and also train the volunteers to be education, and they have volunteers in the homes to ensure they understand that they reach out to learn skills for them to live independent life. For we have quite a number, like in here in Lusaka, we have about 137 volunteers, and we've had about 228 children on the program with home-based education. So the home-based education, the other thing that you need to realize is people ask us, what God would a child with disability need to make? That is a child. They need to play, use because they are given an opportunity to explore, to investigate what they explore what is around them. Because they of course they reach their part to structure the kind of day, and we use it to assess the child, to look at the level at which the child is, their current skills, the emerging skills, and then the child starts according to the age and the severity, then they choose which activity the child needs to learn. Mostly the manual looks at the cognitive, they will look at the language, they will look at socialization, they will look at infant stimulation. This is where the mother has to learn how to behave in order for the child to be, stimulated to act in a certain way, to learn something. If the child has to learn language, the mother has to learn to talk to the child. The mother has to learn to sing with the child. Then there is what we call the socialization. Most children, like a child with autism, they are isolated, so they need to be brought in. So the participation starts at the family level, where also the siblings play a very, very important role of helping the parents to ensure that the child is learning those skills that they require. And even when the parents are not there, the siblings are going to be able to do something with the child at home. And the key thing that we look at, the home-based education, is using the local materials that are available within the home environment. If it is a cup, a plate, the clothes, the shoes, and like the other presenter said, they use those to learn for fine motor skills, for feeding, for colors, for counting. The teaching revolves around the things that are within the home. Therefore, we always say home-based education is cost effective, because you don't need to buy a lot of toys from outside to bring in the home for the child to learn how to use a cup, to learn how to put on a short, to learn how toileting skills. No. So, and usually we do integrate the lessons that the child learn to do home, like for example, if it's toileting skills, they have to use the time when the child is supposed to go to the toilet, activities of daily living. You don't need to do it separately. So it's not something that is done out of the normal. It is within the normal activities of the day that the child is taught those skills. So I think mostly that is what home-based education is done. And we've seen quite a number of children, a greater percentage of them graduating from home-based education, going to formal school. And we even have children that are now doing vocational training because they have not, their abilities may not allow them to do a lot of academic calculations and all that, but they are very good with vocational. And we have a number of them that came from home-based education, and they are doing something. They are learning something for their independent living. I think in brief, that's what I can say, because we have a lot of work in the rural areas and in the compounds, in the communities, and we work with these parents and the volunteers. Yeah.
Fantastic, Priscilla. Thank you so much for sharing this, the important work of helping play and early childhood development among children with disabilities. I know at a few times there was some connectivity problems, so it would be wonderful if you had, a sort of summary or presentation to also share that Afghan could distribute in case anyone had some sound challenges at a few moments. But this was very important piece and aspect that we all need to be thinking about. Now we're going to go on to our last and final presentation. And before we do, I will ask you, feel free to put your questions in the chat, and we'll ask some of the panelists to respond to you now and also maybe after the presentation, as we do know that we're running short on time. As Afghan has asked if people can spare a couple of minutes after the hour, just to be able to hear our final and very interesting presentation. The last presentation is going to be from Marguerite Marlowe, who is in Cape Town at Stellenbosch University with the Institute for Life Course Health Research. And she has been really doing a lot of implementation and evaluation of community-based parenting interventions. And she is now leading the evaluation of a digital parenting intervention to promote child development and responsive parenting and caregiver mental health in Zambia, Uganda, and Tanzania. So, Marguerite, please go ahead and share with us your very interesting work.
Thanks so much, Katie. I just want to make sure that you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you so much. Thanks everyone. It's really great to be part of this exciting webinar series. I'm going to be speaking today about a newly developed digital parenting program called Sharing Stories. It's a WhatsApp-based intervention to promote playful and responsive caregiving, specifically for the COVID-19 era. And so our team at Stellenbosch University is working in partnership with REPSI and local community-based organizations to evaluate the program in Tanzania, Zambia, and Uganda. And the research is funded by the Lego Foundation. So Aaron gave a really good kind of introduction into what we know the challenges of parenting during the pandemic is in different settings. So it doesn't need much introduction. We know that caregivers face substantial challenges in providing nurturing care to young children during this time. And at the same time, it's also a challenge to how to support parents when traditional face-to-face methods of intervention is unsafe to attend or difficult to implement. So whether that's home visiting or group-based programs that can't be implemented due to social distancing or lockdowns, there really is a need to think about how we can reach caregivers of young children in the current pandemic. And so the Sharing Stories intervention really developed, in response to these challenges, as a way to offer remote support in terms of learning through play and positive responsive parenting and caregiver well-being. So the program is entirely delivered over WhatsApp with a focus on 2 key content areas. And the main content area is around parent engagement through the use of digital books. So the main focus is to provide parents with skills and techniques to use picture books to have a particular kind of interaction with their young children. And it's a kind of interaction that's really focused on following the child's lead, having fun together, responding in a positive way to what the child is interested in, mimicking actions that you see in the pictures and making sounds together and talking about the story together. And then in combination with that, we also provide content that's around support for caregivers' mental well-being and their mental health. So caregivers also receive messages about the importance of taking care of themselves and how to cope with stress. So the program is delivered over a period of 6 weeks. It's group-based, and so caregivers are enrolled into a WhatsApp group with 30 to 40 participants per group, and it's moderated by local trained facilitators. So all of the content is available in the local languages, and caregivers can ask questions and receive responses in the local languages. So the main content is delivered through a weekly WhatsApp group chat session using a combination of short video clips, voice notes or audio recordings, infographics, and then opportunity for question and answer and discussion around the content that's shared. And then this is complemented by recap and check-in messages throughout the week, and caregivers also receive 2 digital picture books a week. So there's been some chat on this webinar around getting access to free books. And so all of the books that we use for this intervention is from Book Dash. It's a wonderful resource with lots of picture books to choose from. And we've done translations for all the books into the local languages. Here are just a couple of examples of the kinds of messages that are shared with caregivers over WhatsApp. So it really focuses on helping parents to use their digital books that they receive during the 6 weeks to have a fun, playful experience with their child. So how can you use your voice to make it engaging and fun for your child, mimicking actions or sounds, perhaps animal sounds that are pictures in the book. And with a specific focus to help parents to respond in a positive way to what their child is doing or saying. For example, if a child points to a picture of a tomato and say that's an apple, instead of saying, no, you are wrong, rather saying, oh, okay, you think that's an apple. Oh, that's interesting because it's red. So having a different kind of engagement with the child through the use of these pictures and these books. It's also focused on how to follow your child's lead. So really noticing what your child is interested and responding to that rather than you as the caregiver leading the engagement. And that also makes it more fun for children and for you to also kind of respond to what your child is doing. A really fun part of the activity is also mimicking the actions that you see in the book. So if the book characters are hugging or if they're clapping hands, you can recreate those actions with your child, and children really love this. And then also these picture books offer so much opportunity to talk to young children about feelings. So naming the emotions that you see in the pictures and talking to your child about what is happening and why is it happening. So using these pictures as an opportunity to have conversations with young children. And really encouraging caregivers, even if it's only for 5 or 10 minutes a day, it doesn't have to be for long, but to use these kinds of opportunities to really spend what we call quality time. So finding time, even if it's for a very short time in the day, to focus your attention on your child, to take turns, and to praise and encourage your child, and really to have fun together, because the kind of key message that is shared throughout the 6 weeks is that children really learn best when they are having fun. This is just an example of the kind of the nature of the delivery. So sending a short video, which is followed by some questions to the group, and the participants have the opportunity to respond and to ask questions about the techniques that is shared during the group chat session. And then just briefly to say that we have been developing the program. It's based on an in-person evidence-informed intervention from Parenting for Lifelong Health, their in-person shared reading program that we implemented in Lesotho and in South Africa. It was really successful. So we've adapted the in-person program and we're currently testing the digital version of this in Zambia, Uganda, and Tanzania. We're working with an excellent group of partners for REPSI, Child Fund, Cotphone, Kimara, and Posada in the different countries. And so our focus for this first round of testing or evaluation is really on parents and caregivers of young children, so younger than 3 years. And we are working with 270 caregivers in each country and recruited caregivers who already have access to a smartphone. So that was one of the inclusion criteria for this phase of testing. And then we will be assessing whether the program has any effect on child language and social-emotional development, positive and responsive parenting and discipline behaviors, and then also looking at levels of parenting stress and the caregiver's mental health and well-being. We've started the program this year as in response to COVID with Lego Foundation support. It was quite a challenge to get ethical approval in all 3 countries, so it's been a bit delayed. And as a result, the intervention will only be delivered early next year. We'll be collecting a lot of data in terms of how caregivers find it to be part of this intervention, what works, what doesn't work, a lot of process data to inform the next kind of steps in terms of where we can take this digital delivery and parenting program. Thanks so much.
Wonderful, wonderful, Margaret. This is so timely, considering all that the way the world has changed. Being able to take parenting for lifelong health interventions and translate this into digital interventions is very, very important. So we deeply appreciate that. And now we are going to have, we're just a bit over the hour, so we're just going to have a very, very brief question and answer session. So I'm going to let our communications team guide a few of the questions here.
Okay, thank you very much, Katie. So very quickly, because of time, I'm going to ask my communications colleague, starting with Jackie, then Judith in French and Marie in Portuguese, to ask 1 or 2 questions from the floor, and then I will request Aaron, Charles, and Mildred to answer specific questions. I'll guide that. So let's have Jackie, please.
Stella, for inviting me in, and thank you. I have questions on my end, and one of the question is from Thomas Buire to any speaker. In the cities, population are increasing rapidly, meaning most of the green spaces have shrunk over time. How do we advocate for more green spaces as communities, particularly for slums like Kibra in Nairobi? The second question is from Frankes Abode, and I'm combining this question with the one for Stella Nyagol, which can be answered with any speaker. Providing African examples, how do we tackle play in light of working single parents? Thank you, Stella. Those are the questions on my end.
Okay, we'll have Judith in French, please. 1 or 2 questions. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Stella. J'ai une question de Josephine Mouraya à Gertrude. Qu'est-ce que l'autophonie impliquée pour un faux la autisterie? Qu'est-ce que l'autophonie impliquée pour un faux la autisterie? La deuxième question, pour un faux la autisterie. Yes. La deuxième question vient de Edith Chisala. Comment mobiliser la participation des hommes, en particulier dans le contexte africain? Veuillez partager des programmes fondés sur des dons pro bono.
Okay. Thank you, Judith. Can we now have Marie with the last 1 or 2 questions in Portuguese?
Okay, thank you, Stella. Good afternoon, everyone. From Portuguese. Como engajar mães que não têm smartphones na parentalidade lúdica? E a outra questão é como apoiar pais analfabetos com a tecnologia. Existe alguma experiência na área? São essas 2 questões.
Okay, thank you very much, Marie. So because of time, I'm going to request Aaron to support us with the technology question, Charles to support us with male involvement, and Mildred on play in the slum spaces and any other questions. So we'll start with Aaron. Please, in 1 minute, respond to us on the technology question. Thank you.
I didn't, could you repeat quickly the technology question, Stella? I'm sorry.
I think that is Judith.
Qu'est-ce que l'autophonie impliquée pour un faux la autisterie?
Okay, Marie?
Yes.
Yes,
Stella?
Was it in Portuguese? So I can read it in English.
Yes.
How can we make parents who don't have smartphones more engaged? Mothers at the community level who do not have technology.
Yes.
Sure. I imagine other colleagues on the call can also speak to this, but knowing that technology access is and will continue to remain an issue, it can't be the only solution, right? Assuming smartphones are ubiquitous and in the hands of all families, all parents is not a solution. And so I think some of the work that we've seen that acknowledges that and attempts to work around some of the exciting digital solutions that we're seeing are leaning on mass media, on radio, television, other forms of mass media to deliver messages and supports, particularly in this time of COVID when some of the face-to-face options haven't been enabled or are not allowed right now. But as COVID restrictions start to dissipate in the coming year or two, I would expect to see hybrid approaches where you're seeing some utilization of technology to support, but we're also then going back to encouraging in-person connections, in-person supports with supplemental mass media. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aaron. To Charles, there were several questions from Zambia, from Erica, from Penuel, from Jimmy on how we can mobilize or encourage male involvement, especially in the African setting. Please speak to us in 30 seconds how we can do that.
I think the most important thing is that the men must understand why nurturing care is important. Once they get that message, they'll begin to be persuaded and encouraged to become involved. And one way to reach them is through household visits or home visits. But from our experience in a densely populated area in Nairobi, we know that they are mostly not found at home because they're going to work. But occasionally when they are found, the frontline workers should engage them through a family-centered approach where you're not just engaging the mother, but you're engaging the whole family and helping them to understand the importance of nurturing care for young children. But also through telephone, they can be reached if they give permission that they can be called when they're free, so they can be engaged in that way. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And lastly, to Mildred, how can we do play in very small spaces like the slums of Kibera and others? In less than a minute, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stella. What I would say is that remember, play begins with presence. We need to be present. The caregiver, the parent needs to be present for the child. The setting doesn't really matter. It begins with the presence and then small initiatives, touch, holding the child's hand, clapping, tapping, and then being creative about your spaces are things that the parents or caregivers can learn. As we said, common things around the house. Mama's washing, invite the child to play with the water, arranging the cups, involve the child in that. Talk about things around the house, play your peekaboo, hide behind the seat. It's just the creativity around it. And this is the support we said to all stakeholders, continue supporting the parents to realize that space is not the determinant of the fun. It is the presence and the connection.
Thank you so much. Back to you, Katie.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think that is a really key note on which we conclude that it doesn't matter the materials or the place. What matters is the way that we engage with children and the joyful approach, the playful approach. And we've heard today about engaging through health interventions, engaging with a focus on disabilities. We've heard about national legislation and the programs that's been able to create. And so there's really a lot of rich experience. And I echo Frances Aboud's comments that we collect all of this so that we have both the evidence and the manuals and toolkits available for others across the continent to wish to implement these types of wonderful interventions that you've told us about today. I think I will just conclude with AFCAN's call to action that they will share with you all around joyful parenting and play. in which they call on all of us to strengthen nurturing care by first putting families first and emphasizing family and policy and programs. Second, by developing costed multi-sectoral plans to scale up integrated parenting support and educational programs. Third, by making family-friendly early childhood workplace policies to support working mothers and fathers. And then fourth, to focus on equity by establishing social protection mechanisms. So we thank AFCAN for bringing us all together, for uniting the continent, and for making such an effort to include the different language bases that we have across the continent. This has been a really valuable webinar series, and we really look forward to more of these events to engage us, particularly in a time of COVID, when these webinars help us learn from one another. So I'll now pass it back to AFCAN.
Thank you very much. And we'll just have a very quick evaluation. Thank you so much, Katie, for taking us through this. And Caroline, thank you very much. So we just have the evaluation, a very quick one on the screen, and we'll ask you to participate in that just now. And it is digital. Just click on your response to those 3 simple questions, as they will guide us as we prepare for our next webinars. Thank you. So as we come to the end of this, I really would like to thank all the panelists. I don't know, Carol, whether you're still with us, Carol Dusabe. I know you're here with us and you chaired us very well in this session. Maybe you'd like to give your closing word and I'll give my 2 words to close. Caroline?
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. Just to say thank you so much to all the brilliant speakers, and thank you to all the participants. Let's go out there and continue promoting playful and joyful parenting, starting with ourselves. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Aaron from Lego Foundation, and thank you to all the participants. Thank you that you have stayed with us. Apologies that we did go above time, but thanks for bearing with us and staying on. This has really been a fruitful time together, and I hope that we are all feeling very well equipped as we look forward into the holiday season. Now, please remember that this is now our last webinar for the year, and we will continue other scheduled webinars into the next year. And we ask that you keep your eyes on our social media handles. We will give announcement in very good time for you to prepare to participate in our coming webinars. And please remember to share topics that you would like us to include of your interest. And if you're interested in presenting in future webinars, do get in touch with us. And by 31st December 2020, so that we can consider you as we plan going ahead. Would like to wish all of you a very wonderful Christmas and a blessed New Year. Please take care of yourself and your loved ones. Remember to wash your hands, to stay at home, wear a mask if and when you leave the house, and observe social distance. Have a very blessed Christmas and a wonderful, blessed New Year. Goodbye, everyone.
Engela aya, bengela aya, bengela oya oya kara oya oya onginza oya oya bengela oya oya kara oya oya onginza oya oya. Olele, olele, moliba makasi. Olele, olele, moliba makasi.
Olele, moliba makasi.